Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the podcast Respectfully. We have a lovely guest here today. She's from Omaha, Nebraska, currently living in the DC area. She is an author, she's a speaker, a soft life coach, helping women reclaim their power and design a life of freedom. She's a little bougie and a little hood. She's the founder of Vintage 76. Again, currently living in DC, Omaha native. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Cha Jones to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I am so happy to be here.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's a pleasure. So, look, I want to get started off. I always ask my native Omahans, what was it like for them growing up in Omaha? I see you said you were a little bougie, a little hood. So I'm interested to know where you grew up at in Omaha and what was life like for you growing up in Omaha.
Yeah, okay. So I'm from the Miller Park area. So I
Ooh,
grew up
okay.
in the Lothrop area, then Miller Park. I went to McMillan, then I went to Burke. I graduated from Omaha Burke. And I don't know. Omaha, Omaha is different because I've been all around the world, and you know, I'm still a little black girl from Nebraska. So it
I
hasn't
love it.
changed me.
Yeah.
I just learned to move beyond the cornfields and not allow that to kind of confine me and confine who I am as a person. But
Hmm.
I would say it taught me who I was, and it allowed me to become the person that I am. People always say I didn't know black people were in Nebraska, and I'm like,
Right.
well, where are you from?
Right, right.
Where are we not? But
We get that all the time.
yeah, so I mean, it was different. But one thing I can say about the Midwest, you get all aspects of America, and so you're not
Yeah.
just West Coast, East Coast, South. North. I think the Midwest is just a combination of everything. So
Hmm.
I don't know.
Wow. And so I heard you mentioned McMillan. I went to McMillan,
Okay,
and then you went to Burke. So you probably know some of my big brothers. You know any of the Stricklands or the Brysons?
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Tim Strickland. That's my big bro. Jermaine Bryson. Sonny Lipscomb. You know any of those guys?
They were a little bit older than me, but yeah, I know the
Okay.
names.
Okay, that's what's up. Well, man, again, I'm glad you joined. I know it's a lot. You got a lot going on, a lot to talk about, so I'm excited to hear about it. I always love to bring a, fellow Omaha native on and just share your journey and be a blessing to someone else. So you have traveled to over 40 countries.
Yep, 40 countries. I've been not over, just 240. So yeah.
Wow, wow. Where did that come from? That drive and just to want to go see the world like that?
I think I've always wanted to see the world. I went to Sherman, which is down by Carter Lake, down by the
Okay.
airport. And so I remember being in like fifth grade and the planes would be taking off and landing and I could hear them. And I was just like, I had made up in my mind that I was on this little red carpet and I would just travel
Mhm.
around the world. And
Wow.
so once I got older, and I always traveled, like I spent my
Hmm.
summers in Tennessee, and I went on my first trip when I was like 6 months. So I had always been traveling, and once I got older, and I had been traveling through work. I was a regional marketing coordinator for a dental management company, and I traveled a lot. And I managed 32 dental clinics throughout the US. So I've been to 40, I think 45 of the 50 states. So it
Jesus.
just has always been in me. And when I got the opportunity to go live abroad initially in 2008, I took it. And, I've just kept traveling ever since.
Give us some of those countries you've been in, because 40 countries, that's a lot.
Yeah, so I've lived in South Korea. I've lived in Mexico. I've lived in Malaysia, but I've been
Wow.
to, you know, the Caribbeans like Aruba, Saint Martin. I've been to Japan. I've been obviously to Korea, China, Hong Kong, Bali or Indonesia. Um, I've been to Portugal. I've been to France. I've been to England. So I've been to
Wow,
Colombia.
that's amazing.
Over.
Seeing all those different cultures, being a young lady from Omaha and traveling to over 40 countries, how has your perspective grown and what could you give to someone? I haven't even left the country. So give me something, from traveling all those countries, something that really has spoke to you, on that journey.
The biggest thing I remember being in Korea because I was living there. I lived there for 3.5 years. And I remember like just arriving. I had never been out of the country. I had been to Puerto Rico at that time, but I had never been outside of the United States per se, other than Puerto Rico. And um I had this like chip on my shoulder that most Black people have because you have this experience as a Black person in America, and then you get abroad and you realize that your worldview is confined to America. So I remember
Mm,
I was hanging out with these Pakistani dudes, and they were like, "Cha, you keep on like you keep talking about you not American. And listen, I'm telling you, just go with your passport. Your passport blue." And I was like, I don't even know what the hell that means. But it was like, listen,
right.
you keep talking about being Black and don't nobody see you as Black. They see you as American. And that shifted
Mm,
my perspective because, as a Black woman in America, I'm identifying as being Black first and then
mm-hmm,
American. And so that kind of shifted
mm,
everything because I never looked at it like that. As an African American, you're always like it's almost like being a second class citizen because they're looking at you Black first, right? And
right.
then they bring you into the fold and it's all Americans, right? But when you are overseas, nobody is checking for color identity. They
Oh,
like
that's good.
you're just a person and you happen to have a blue passport. Now, today, I'm not sure what that looked like, but before, like you travel and you just have more freedom, you have more flexibility, and you define who you are when you enter the room. Just your
Mm,
color is not defining you. Your education is not necessarily defining you. You kind of define yourself. And I kind of shifted how I thought, especially when it came to identity and how I was showing up. And it
mm-hmm,
gave me more freedom and more flexibility that I didn't have to confine myself. And most Americans are living within the confines of their 13 blocks and
mm,
they identify with everything within the 13 blocks. So if
that's
your
true.
perspective is the hood, that's going to be your perspective. And until you see something different, you really only
Right.
operating in those 13 blocks. So once you go
Man.
abroad and you now in the world and you meeting people from Australia, you meeting people from New
Mm,
Zealand, Russia, and
wow.
the thing is that propaganda is being sold every day on TV
Mm-hmm,
and telling you what the world is. But until you step
mm-hmm,
into the world, you only believe in what the news is telling you. And I would get calls, man, why you over there in Korea? It's they living like this and the other. America's the best. And I'm like, and back then they had stuff that, our banking system was totally um antiquated to what was in Korea. In Korea, I could take my little passport, put it in the ATM, and money come out back in '08. So it's like,
mm.
no, America's not the best country. There's certain things that are great about America or have been in the past, but even that's shifting today. So I think
Wow.
traveling just changes everything.
I agree 100%. When I first started traveling, we was going to Kansas City, St. Louis, and then I took a trip to like Houston, Dallas, and Austin, and it just blew my mind. I knew then, I was bigger than Omaha, and I wanted to see something else. So when I came to Atlanta the first time, I was like, wow, this is like black paradise. All these blacks and nobody was fighting. It was just such a good vibe. And then I ended up moving here in 2004. So I agree. I haven't traveled a whole lot, nothing like you, because I haven't even been out the country. But I agree 100%. Traveling definitely broadens the horizon and and makes you think, gives you a different perspective. So I encourage all my people out there, if you haven't traveled, you haven't left 72nd, you haven't went past 108th Street, you gotta get out. You gotta get out and see the world. Do you go back home often?
I wouldn't say often. I would say like every 2, 3 years I go
Oh,
home.
okay. Was you there for Omaha Day last year?
I was not. Last time I was there was 2023.
Okay. Yeah, we went to this last Omaha Day. I hadn't been there in a while, and it was we had a great time. So, helping women reclaim their power and design a life of freedom. What is this all about? Where does it come from? How was this birthed?
Yeah, so literally, I'm actually in the launch phase of launching my newest venture, which is called Vintage 76. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I was born in 1976.
I
So
figured that.
So this is my 50th year, and I'm actually starting this new venture. I've I've been a coach for 17 years, and I
Mm,
specifically was in the niche of helping people move abroad. I worked with a lot of Fortune 500 companies, and I went in and trained people to prepare them to live abroad. And I did that for about 14 years after I moved back
mm,
from Korea. And um, what I found is that there was a lot of women who felt like they wanted to do something, but never took the risk to do it. And I'm one of those people, I get to the ledge and I just jump because I feel
mm,
like the parachute will come. I just had that much faith in
mm.
it. So I be
That's
like,
dope.
even when I moved to Malaysia, I don't really tell people this, but I moved there with like $125, me and my son, and I was
Wow.
just like, we gonna make it work. And at the
Yeah, yeah.
time,
Malaysia. Wow.
it's like, I don't know what the hell is about to happen, but we about to do this. And everything just
Yeah,
kind of worked out. But I just moved like that. However,
that's right.
what I've realized, especially in Malaysia, there were a lot of women who were like moving abroad on sabbatical, or they were just like, I'm gonna take a year and just, go see the world. But they
Mm-hmm.
were like longing for this freedom, and I've had so many people tell me, I wish I could do that. Well, why can't you? Well, I got children. I have a 6-year-old son. And majority of his life, up until the last 8 months, he's been abroad. So we moved abroad when he was 18 months. We moved to Mexico. We lived there for 3.5 years. He's
Mm-hmm.
6. He just turned 6 in August. He'll be 7 this year. And he's been to 11 countries. So
Wow.
that's not an excuse to me. What are your priorities? And at this point, stepping into my 50th year, half a century, no, there are no excuses. And
Let me interrupt you, Sha.
mhm,
Usually, a lot of people say they don't want to take their kids in different schools. What do you have to say about that?
homeschool them. And if you don't feel
Oh.
like you can homeschool them, there's options. There's international schools. Uh, Even if you were going to homeschool them and you wanted them to have a U.S. curriculum, you can do a online homeschooling situation where the platform is there. You have minimal uh, involvement, but that shouldn't be an excuse because
Right.
there's many opportunities post 2020. So you don't have to just be confined to wherever you're from. You can literally make the world your oyster if you desire to do that. You don't have to just be like, okay, I'm from this place. This is all I know. Okay, today I want to know more. I'm willing
Yeah.
to figure it out. And all you have to do is be willing to take the first step, and the door will pretty much open up for you, and the right things will start coming to you. You just have to be, you know, prepared to kind of walk through that
Yeah.
door and just say, I'm ready.
You're right, and you gotta have faith. You definitely gotta have faith. So this vintage era, what's that about?
It's
I like, I
about
like. By the way, I like your words there. The vintage era, I love that.
Uh, yes, this is my new era of truly being authentically me. I think in your 20s, you don't know who the hell you are. So you're trying to
Yeah.
figure it out. Then when you get to 30, you like, okay, I learned some things. Let me go ahead and apply them. And then by the time you get to
Mm-hmm.
40, you comfortable and you kind of smooth sailing. Then once you get
Mm-hmm.
to this point where you like entering 50 and beyond, you like unapologetically yourself. You show up and you
Right.
like, I don't want to do that. Hell no. I'm not doing that.
Right.
Don't
Right.
ask me. No means no. I don't do that. I'm doing this. Um, I'm defining me. I'm not being defined. I'm not explaining nothing to you. And it is what it is at this point.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of aged backwards in the sense of, I lived my life when I was in my 20s. I left college early in my junior year, and I just was like, okay, I'm gonna start this business. And then it didn't really work out. And then I went back, got my degree. I had worked corporate, and then one day I woke up and I was like, all right, I'm gonna put this plan together to start this new business. And I did all the things, gave myself 6 months, bought a house, did all the stuff, left, and then I betted on me. And so a lot of women are getting to where I am now, and they don't know how to manage or navigate freedom. Well, I've
Mm.
always been free. I didn't have my child, my first and only child, until I was 43. So
Mm.
now I've done the things, right? And
Right.
so I can now show, or what I consider, give women permission. I do
Right.
permission development. I don't do personal development, but I
Permission
help
development.
women understand they have permission to take
I
this
love it.
new era and just truly become authentically who they want to be. And no
Wow.
qualms and no explanations.
And so I'm gonna throw you off here a little bit, real quick. Strategy or discipline, and why?
I see, I'm a cuss baby, so I'm Gemini Taurus, so I'm gonna go with both.
You said both. You gotta pick one. You gotta pick one. Strategy or discipline.
Okay, if I really had to go with one, I'm gonna say if you discipline, you'll learn the strategy.
That's good. That's good. I love it. And so you're an author and you wrote a book. Tell me about the book you wrote.
Well, I have almost, I think, 9 books now, but
Oh wow.
my latest book is called The Writer's Pathway, and it is a guided journal to help women really like rewrite their story and write themselves back into it, because for so long we've been doing all the things. And I kind of tell the story. My mother had bipolar disorder, or has bipolar disorder. And it taught me so many things about life. And
Mm.
I take that backstory and I kind of tell my story throughout, but how it made me a writer, how it gave me the tools to navigate life and not just become a victim just
I love.
because I had to, be the oldest daughter, become the caregiver, be all the things to all the people. But once I realized, okay, yeah, this is the hand I've been dealt. What am I going to do with it? Then it kind of took me on basically a healing journey last year. So I wrote
Yeah.
that book, but I do have a Black travel romance book that's called Soft Landing, The Return to Self. And it's really about a Black woman who leaves DC, moves to Mexico, and reclaims her life. So, and
Mm.
it's a romance story.
So I want to segue into this. What I get from you is that you're a woman of no excuses. You're resilient. You jump out there on faith, and you seem real focused, right? What do you say to women who are in the system? I talk about this a lot because I don't see this really being discussed on podcasts about our culture of women that are stuck in bondage, whether it's Section 8. Me personally, I think a lot of time the government assistance keeps our people from growing because as you know, some women, if you're on Section 8, they can't bring a man in their home, they can't get married, things like that that keep them from growing. They can only make so much money, and so they stay in these systems And it's no disrespect, respectfully to all the ladies, right? But I just want to hear from a woman such as yourself a point of view. What do you say to those women who could possibly be in bondage, keeping them from growing?
Um, I think it's great when you're using it as a hands up instead of a handout, and you take the assistance and you do what it's supposed to do, assist you
Hmm.
to the next step.
Right.
I think a lot of times people get set up, and it's a mindset. It's a mindset. I'm getting over on the system. I'm doing this. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And really what you're doing is setting yourself up for failure because you are becoming codependent on something outside of yourself. And sometimes, yeah, it's difficult. Like, I remember being broke, and I remember trying to hustle to get to the next level. But at the same time, you can settle for something and get complacent and stay in a place where it
Hmm.
becomes difficult to then get yourself out of that situation versus saying, you know what, I got a time frame. Yes, I need to be here. Maybe I'm unemployed. Maybe, I got 2, 3 kids and I fell on hard times, whatever the situation may be. Don't
Hmm.
use that as the reason why you have to stay in a situation. Use that as a reason why you need to get out of the situation. Because
That part.
at any given time, what if they shift the gears and they take that money? What do you know
Right.
now? And there's so many grants and opportunities that you can use to be like, you know what, I'm gonna go back to school. I'm gonna better
Yeah.
myself. But a lot of times what I see is that people, they start having this mentality that somebody's supposed to take care of them. And
Yeah.
oh, I'm getting over, and oh, I got this, and I'm gonna sell my kids for tax time or whatever the situation is, and you think you winning. Well, tax time comes
Right.
once a year. Like what about the rest of the time? What are you doing?
Exactly.
So I I say you can get stuck and stay there, but it's a whole world out here where people are actually doing big shit and you staying stuck.
Hmm.
So, what do you really want for your life?
Right, that's good. Yeah, and I'm always just trying to get back to the culture and empower our people and encourage them, because a lot of times, like we're saying that assistance we could be stuck, and it's all about growth. It's all about growth. So appreciate you dropping those gems there. Before we wrap it up, what would you say to a young lady or any young individual in Omaha that's trying to find their way, just graduated high school and they're kind of lost? You know how them streets is in Omaha. A lot of our people, run into these roadblocks. What type of advice or encouragement can you give a young person in Omaha who just graduated high school?
I would say get out. Not because I'm not proud of where I'm from, because where I'm from made me, obviously. But I would say go experience something different. And I don't care if you're from Omaha, I don't even care if you're from California or New York.
Yeah.
Everybody should leave where they're from and experience
Mm,
something different. That way you have a perspective. Because as long
right.
as you in that 13 blocks of your comfort zone, then you don't have a perspective of what can I compare this to. So I say
Mm,
leave. I remember when I left Omaha, I went to Grambling, and it was totally different, right? So
yeah.
I'm in Louisiana, it's a little country, a lot going on, people
All
from
them black
everywhere.
folks.
Yeah. So um I think you need to get out. If you have the opportunity to go to college somewhere else. Don't go to UNO, don't go to UNL. Go somewhere else where you can at least
Mm.
experience other people. If you're not going to college, go find you a trade in another state. You know,
In another
there,
state.
there's
Wow.
opportunity. Take a gap year where you do travel. There's so many opportunities for you to see the world. There are opportunities for you to go, teach abroad where they pay you to go to another country. I would say get a passport immediately. Make sure that you're mobile because I said this before, but I mean it. if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And I
Yeah.
remember I had a passport at least 7 years prior to me even leaving the country. I never knew when I was going to use that passport. And
Mm-hmm.
one day the opportunity came. I literally was living in North Carolina and lay down on my bed and went to sleep. I had said right before I went to sleep, man, I just want to see the world. And I woke up. At that time I had lost my job because they had a layoff. And so I had this huge severance package. And so I wasn't working, but my resume was out there. And I got a recruiter that contacted me about going to live and teach in Korea. Now, I wasn't even a teacher. I was a marketing person, but the opportunity presented itself, and then I was ready
Mm-hmm.
for it. And so
Mm.
you never know what opportunities will come your way if you just put it out there in the universe and allow it to meet you where you are. So if you young and you don't know what to do, or you looking around you and like this ain't where it's at, go find where it is. And if that ain't it, go find some other place and keep on finding it until,
Right,
like, you
right.
don't have to have a definition of what your life is going to be. Go make it what you desire
Mm.
it to be. That's what my advice would be.
I love that. I love that. And that's my slogan too. Stay ready. You ain't got to get ready. I love it. Man,
Absolutely.
that was deep. And it's interesting you say that because I've been seeing that kind of floating around on social media too. You got to leave your hometown. You got to leave where you're from. And it makes sense because people, when you go to college, most times people do leave off and go to college. Kind of like the word of God says too, leave and cleave, with
Mhm.
your wife or whomever you're leaving, you got to leave a nest. So that was good. How has respect served you well with yourself and with others?
Yeah, I realized that, you know, for you to want respect, you have to give it. And I
Hmm.
always show up respectfully, and make sure that I understand the environment I'm in, especially when you live abroad. You have to respect somebody else's culture. You can't come into somebody else's home and disrespect them and think that everything's
Right.
going to be okay for you. So you got to come and know the lay of the land and be like, okay, that's what y'all doing over
Hmm.
here. All right. So you know, when you show up in other places, you figure out what they say, when in Rome, do as they do, you know. So when you're in Rome, you have to do what the Romans do. You don't do what you want to do. So I think respect goes a long way. And when you respect other people, they'll respect you back. So it's reciprocity in action. And I think I love the title because
Mm.
I mean, we do need a little bit more respect. And if these young people understood, you got to
Oh my
respect your
God.
elders.
Oh my
You
gosh. I
may
don't know
not
what's
be
going on
old,
today.
but put
Yeah, I
some
don't know
respect
what's
on the
happening
name.
today. Exactly. Yeah, and I don't know why these young generation just so out of hand with respect. But I will say it's probably because you had babies raised having babies. Our parents were older, and we're from a generation where we there was no talking back to your parents. You had to look them in their eye. You couldn't be on your phone while your parents talking to you. So yeah, social media and these kids is just out of control. We talk about it all the time. Man, it's crazy.
Absolutely. So yeah.
But Chad, thank you. Where can the people follow you at? Give them your social media handles.
Yeah, so everything is at Cha Jones, like Facebook, Instagram. If you're a writer and you're into reading, I'm on Substack at the Cha Jones. And then my website is chajones.com.
Okay. Chad, I appreciate you reaching out, coming on the podcast, blessing us with your presence. And thank you. You got any questions for me before we wrap it up?
Yeah. So how does young black men make it to Atlanta, get out of Omaha, and stay successful and continue to be a blessing to other people?
Yeah, so I could just share my testimony. I left Omaha. I was in the streets and headed down the wrong path. My god sister was here at the time, and so I wanted to be a rapper. I left with the rap dream. I came here and I got here in 2004 and just working and trying to get on the rap scene and do that. And then I was out here doing my thing. Me and some of my partners, we had some motion between probably 2000. 2008 to like 2013, 14. We had motion and all that. But then I still always kept a job too. I always had a plan of, okay, if the rapping don't work, I'm gonna be successful regardless. I've always had a business mentality being back in Omaha, getting money out there. So I knew I was gonna be successful. I was highly educated in Omaha, just far as smart. I didn't go to college or none of that, but I was a straight A student. Anybody that know me knows. So the streets kind of got the best of me there. I came here and I hit Atlanta and just it's been good. Atlanta's a real welcoming city. The black culture here, it's a lot of millionaires. It's so inspiring. So I tell anybody, you come here in Atlanta, and not anybody, but if you're a driven person, you get around all this electrifying energy, it's just going to ignite you to, want to be better. So I got in corporate as well. And from there, it just took me on another level when I got to corporate from 2011 to like 2021, 20, I think 22. And so when I left there, at the time I just jumped out as an entrepreneur. Me and my wife got out, started buying mobile homes. We followed these mobile home investors from Chicago. Shout out to Brian. And so Byron, I'm sorry, Byron and Charnice. We followed them. We jumped out there. It was right around COVID, had a little money saved up. So we jumped out, started investing in mobile homes, flipping those. Also at the time, a strategic move. Everybody was in the house. We went to my cousin's wedding in Omaha, and we saw a 360 photo booth. And COVID was kind of ending, and I
Mhm.
said, "Wow, that'll be dope if we get one of those back in Atlanta, because here everybody loves to party for anything in Atlanta. They find a reason to celebrate." And so we got the photo booth. That's 2021, and we hit the ground running with that too. So like you said, just getting in front of opportunity and not being afraid. I'm just like you. I jump out there as well. All I need is a little information. Because of where I come from, I'm very I love to learn, and I'm trying to get back everything that was taken from me. My childhood, I was in and out of Kearney, Nebraska, Geneva, the county at youth center. So I had a troubled childhood, but again, God was keeping me though. you know um, when I would be in those cells at night, I'd be crying and just trying to understand why me, because I knew I was sharp and intelligent, but my home front was jacked up. And so God was keeping me, lo and behold. And so now he's molded me, and I'm here in Atlanta. And so I use this platform to give back and being in leadership. I did a lot of mentoring and coaching for growth, things like that. So I'm just a humble guy from Omaha like yourself. I love to get back to my people. I've learned a lot here, and I know, the things that we aren't privy to there and that aren't as tangible, and it's a mindset. And so I'm constantly just trying to give back. And so that's what this platform is for, not just Omaha. And so I like to just show people back home, because I know I have a certain following, especially from the streets, guys like me going in and out of prison, coming home, and they see me and say, "Dang, bro, really, made that change." So that's kind of my story in a nutshell, and I just use this platform to just drive and encourage and inspire. I was a big fan of Nipsey Hussle, and like he always said, one of the greatest gifts to inspire is to inspire. And so I just love to. It's a saying down here, a lady on the radio. She said, "When you get, give. When you learn, teach."
I
And
love it.
so yeah, so as I'm growing, I just love to get back. So I know the kids are watching. And again, I was that young 14-year-old kid, lost, didn't have my father, in and out the system. I want to prevent all that. And I'm just doing God's work, and just allowing God to use me and use his platform. So that's my story in a nutshell.
I love it. Well, thank you, Isaac, for having me and giving me an opportunity to give a voice to young, especially Black women who are coming out of
Hmm.
Omaha. Because, I think, especially when we leave Omaha, the thing is to keep it moving and never go back, never give back, and not even show people that there is something outside of Omaha. And I've tried to send stuff. Like my first book, I wrote a book called Every Girl Needs Her Pearls, which was a motivational book for little girls. And
Hmm.
I tried to flood Omaha, be like, "Hey, put this book out there." I wouldn't even charge them. I was like, "Here, put this book out," and
Yeah.
I wouldn't get no bites. So
Yeah.
I say all that to say that regardless if you're watching and you're sitting there like, "Man, how do I figure it out?" Just come up with an idea and then take the first step, and the next
Hmm.
step will come. But you don't have to be confined to where you're from.